All right, so let's talk about House of the Dragon. No real new news, but we do have some set photos. So let me take it over here and switch over to. We had a couple weeks ago, so I'll show these really quickly first. This is on Wiki of Thrones. These came out a couple weeks ago, so not a big major thing here. The first one here, we have one of the Kingsguard. I'm not sure which Kingsguard this will be. I'd imagine this will be during the reign of Jaehaerys, because in these other pictures we see a younger version of Rhaenyra and a younger version of Queen Alicent. You see dragon food back here, all these bones, and some of them are blackened. And again, this should be during the reign of Jaehaerys, because we do see the younger picture here of Alicent. And this is a wagon here. You'll see another zoomed out version of this. And then here's a little zoomed out version of the same shot, but we also have young Rhaenyra right here. Very much Dany vibes right here. You see the southern haircut. She looks a lot like Dany, and we see her walking over to her here, so I'm imagining she's flown in to meet her for whatever, because they used to really get along back in the older days before politics took over their lives. And you see here a young Rhaenyra petting a blue thing, which will be her dragon, Syrax. And she looks almost just like Dany here as far as the dress and everything else. So it makes me sad just thinking about Dany in Game of Thrones. But I really hope this helps us heal. I did that video recently, a couple weeks ago, about how Game of Thrones broke all our hearts, and it's still the case. Hopefully this will help us heal, at least seeing some of these great stories. Now, the new pictures, I'll pull those up as well really quickly. Let me pull them up over here. I have them saved here to my computer, because these, let me go back to them, are new. They came out today. And let me explain a little bit about what's going on, because I'm able to tell you exactly what's going on in these pictures. So let me explain it first, then I'll show you the pictures. This, we're going to see some Damon Targaryen, the Rogue Prince, action in this show, and I'm really glad about it. There was a character called Kragus Drahar, otherwise known as Kragus Crabfeeder, and the reason he's called the Crabfeeder is he was an admiral from Myr who teamed up with two other countries, Lys and Tyros, and they formed this army called the Triarchy, and they took over the Stepstones from all these pirates. And if you're don't remember, the Stepstones are right off the coast of Dorne. It used to be a landmass that connected Westeros and Essos, and now they were broken up, apparently by magic and the Children of the Forest. We don't know how true that is, but the point being is they're a bunch of islands. And so they took over all these islands from these pirates, and what he would do was capture these pirates and tie them up on shore to these things driven in the ground, I guess stakes driven in the ground or whatever, and let them drown when the high tide came up. So he became known as the Crab Feeder. And so eventually they took over the Stepstones and ruled them essentially, but then they started charging all these tolls for safe passage. And because most people didn't care at first. They had no problem with it, whatever. But the problem is it started to affect all these Westerosi houses, all these tolls for safe passage, and it affected Corlys Valaryon the most, otherwise known as the Sea Snake. I did all those videos on the characters of House of Dragon. I'll leave that playlist linked in the description below as well. The point is, you don't want to fuck with Corlys Valaryon, the Sea Snake. So he and Damon Targaryen got together and formed an army and took over the Stepstones and the War of the Stepstones and defeated Kragus, and eventually Damon Targaryen beheaded him with his ancestral Valyrian steel blade, Dark Sister. And that's what we're going to see, I believe, during the show. So I'm glad they're putting all these side stories in there, and it's not just, major Targaryen stuff, because there's all these cool stories that happened during this time period. So let me switch over here and show you this. By the way, Corlys Valyrion did eventually crown the Rogue Prince, Damon Targaryen, the king of the Stepstones. So here's your first picture. It looks like this is the Lys army here. And you got a bunch of booty, a bunch of loot, a bunch of booty, whatever. But this looks like to be on the Stepstones because of this picture. And this is what I was talking about, the crab feeder going to work here. You see men tied up to these stakes, and you see men already dead over here. He's been feeding crabs, obviously, and a couple more. So this is what they did when they took over the Stepstones to all these pirates. So this is going to be a pretty cool story. And then we have another random picture here. There's a couple more, but nothing really else major. This is a guy in Targaryen armor, so I thought that looked pretty cool to show you guys that. So during this time period, these are the same pictures, but just to show you this other guy, you can see the difference. That's why I think he's probably a Kingsguard. This may be this may be a strong, because how strong has a pretty big part in this story during this time period, as far as some stuff I won't spoil right now, but this could be him. But anyway, you can see the difference between that and then going back to this one over here. You can see the kind of the regular Targaryen armor or whatever. Of course, these are all different houses that, support the Targaryens or whatever. So no surprise here. There's going to be different armors or whatever based off Kingsguard versus kind of the regular army, and then the other people will have slightly different versions as well. So anyway, House of the Dragon. Really looking forward to it. Now that I see, especially these side stories coming in, it's going to be really cool to check to see. And again, hopefully it kind of gives us back together. Hopefully it'll come out. It will come out in 2022. Hopefully it'll be in April. I believe it will be. Honestly, I think there's no release date definitive right now, but I believe it will be April. And I believe it will be probably Sunday nights at 9 o'clock, just like Game of Thrones. So hopefully that's the case, so we can all get together and watch at 9 o'clock and then go live after the show at 10 o'clock like we used to, and get our little family back together. So it does come out in 2022. Everything is just around the corner.